What's up, you guys? This is Adam Gillespie with Rancid and Sweaty Caps coming at you with yet another video. And just for the record, I want you guys to know that I really do want to be able to edit this video and make it a top-notch video for you, but I just don't have the time. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you guys look at this background and listen to me rant about this god-awful show called Rings of Power. Now, I know this is kind of a disappointment for most people who might be interested in watching a review that actually shows some of the stuff going on in it, but trust me, I'm going to do my best regardless. The criticisms I have are just as valid without the editing as there are with the editing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the review. First thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the ridiculous opening scene of Galadriel getting bullied by other boy elves. Now, there was, admittedly, another girl elf in there as well, but let's just talk about some of the stuff that is ridiculous about this. It makes no sense that the show would open up with this. You know, it's a forced controversy that allows you to feel, oh my gosh, Galadriel's bullied as a little girl, therefore she's totally able to go into war. No, that's not how it works. But first of all, the acting in regards to the children is pretentious. Not bad, but pretentious. The line where the girl playing little Galadriel goes, "It's not going to float, it's going to sail." It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's a pointless line. It's basically the same thing, and because of the fact that it doesn't actually have something to propel it forward through the power of wind, yeah, it's pretty much exclusively going to float on the water, and wherever the current takes it, it will take it. It's going to float. That's how that works. Due to the buoyancy of that object, it's going to float if it doesn't have something to propel it forward like a sail. Okay? But the writers are too stupid to know that. Secondly, about this scene, how often does Galadriel get bullied in this area of existence? I don't want to call it Valinor because this is a mockery of what Valinor should be, but how often is it that Galadriel gets bullied? Because if it's a daily occurrence, then there's no reason for that. Or if this was the first time ever, then what a lucky situation it is that she's able to handle herself so well in the face of combative situations. Isn't that incredible? Isn't it amazing that little girl Galadriel, is able to completely outclass her bully, yet her bully still picks on her? Yet moments before she was able to tackle her bully to the ground and throw him into a situation where she's physically on top of him and ready to punch him in the face a couple of times, it turns out that the bully is too strong for her to stop him from throwing a rock. So how is it that he's stronger than her one moment, and then the next moment she's just infinitely more powerful than he is and is able to tackle him to the floor like it's nothing, like he's a piece of butter just waiting to get slid off of a knife on a piece of bread? That analogy made no sense, but neither does this show. And how is... yeah, that's just ridiculous. So that covers the bullying scene, but why does... Okay, so Galadriel's brother comes around, basically stops the fight before it can continue, and then we find out that he's a complete moron because he asks Galadriel, why does a rock sink and a boat float? Or something along the lines of that. It's a terrible, terrible question. It's supposed to be the important line of dialogue that we all listen to and adhere to, and oh my gosh, what a deep and meaningful question and a deep and meaningful answer that Galadriel's older brother has. Oh my goodness, what amazingness. What a wonderful line. No, it's terrible. It's terrible. A rock sinks because it doesn't have the buoyancy to float, and a ship floats because it has the buoyancy to float. But no. The answer that Galadriel's brother gives her is that a stone only looks down, but a ship looks up. Oh my gosh! Isn't that amazing? Isn't that incredible? Who'd have thought that stones and boats, inanimate objects, can look in different directions? How amazing is it that that's the case? Elves, the wisest and fairest of all beings? Oh my gosh, these people are incredible. What a stupid question. It's so stupid. It's incredibly idiotic. Just, my goodness. And what does he mean that a stone looks only downward? Stones can get tossed into the air. Stones can be moved wherever a person moves it. It doesn't have the ability to look downward. What do you mean a ship looks up? A ship is directed by the winds. It's directed by the winds and the sails and the rudders that the actual pilot of the ship, the captain, pilots the ship in a direction that he wants it to go. It's such an incredibly idiotic line of dialogue. It's such an incredibly idiotic line of questioning that Galadriel's older brother gives her. Rise of Skywalker. I just want to mention this. It seems as though Rise of Skywalker has infected Lord of the Rings, because Galadriel is too stupid to know that up is up and down is down, just like in Rise of Skywalker. Like, she literally asks her older brother after this, but sometimes the lights reflect just as brightly in the ocean as it does in the sky. How am I to know which is up and which is down? I don't know. Are you on the ground? Are you standing on a surface? Can you not adhere to the basic understanding of gravity, that if you're being pulled down, that means that you look up. That means that up is up. It's not that difficult. It's not that complicated. It's not that incredible of a question either. And of course her brother leans in and gives her some secret answer that I'll cover later in the story. But I'm inclined to believe that the actor was just whispering into the other actor's ear that you're retarded if you don't understand what up is versus down. What the heck, dude? Up is up, down is down. It's not that complicated. Yet Galadriel, wisest and fairest elf, such an idiot. And why is it that every single time they talk, why is it every single time that they talk or they mention a word that's not of the English language but is meant to sound incredible, they roll their R's? Like they go, Morgoth, Sauron, Valinor. Like they literally rolled the R at the end of Valinor. They went Valinor. Like what the? Why? Why? That's not how rolling R's works. Galadriel. Celebrimbror. I'm starting to think that they might actually start rolling R's in words where there aren't any R's. Like they go, Gandalf. Gosh, this show is terrible. Every single word that doesn't come from the English language or is made up as a name for Tolkien's books, they roll the R. And it's an obnoxious rolling of the R's. If you look through the actual books and hear the audiobook, just listen to the audiobook and you'll realize that they don't roll their R's like that. It's meant to be spoken in a English accent, you know, not like an American accent, but in English, like a British accent. It's meant to be spoken in a British accent. It's not rolling your R's every single time there's an R in a word that's not of the English language or is something that Tolkien made up. That's a minor gripe, but it's an important one that I have a question about because it's distracting. They try to make it sound profound and incredible, but all they're doing is actually making it sound worse and less interesting. And your brother seems to be a very competent fighter, at least for the few seconds we see him on screen. At the start of the combat that we see him in. So why is it that he goes from combating a bunch of orcs and just running them through with his blade like it's nothing to just letting one of the orcs hug him and hold him in place? Like, dude, you literally lifted up your arm so that another orc could just hug you and hold you in place. You're not even using the sword that you have to run him through or anything like that. The activity that's going on in this scene is so horrendously bad. I genuinely couldn't tell what was going on. I was like, what, hold on, why? Why is this happening? But they don't explain it. They show him screaming and crying, and then that's it. Then the helmet stacking scene in this show is just as stupid as it was in the trailer. That's not how physics works. First of all, the physics of stacking those helmets would require you to have a crane of some kind. And who took the time to stack those helmets and then just leave? Like, you're not going to just... Never mind. There are breakdowns of why that's stupid on other people's YouTube channels. Go ahead and check those out, because I don't want to have to get into a 15-minute conversation with myself as to why it is that they had that stupid stacking scene in this show, because it's terrible. It's absolutely horrendous. And Galadriel is just a terrible leader. We cut to a point where Galadriel moves, like, she does the opening monologue, and she's like, goes through the whole Morgoth thing, talks about him. Oh my gosh, car in front of me. Woo! Hello. All right. But she goes through this whole conversation, not conversation, but narration over the invasion of Morgoth and the destruction of the orcs and the enemies. And then she talks about how they're still looking for Sauron, despite the fact that Sauron should not be known to exist at this point in time. He does exist. He is still alive, but the armies of Middle-earth shouldn't know that he's alive. They shouldn't understand that Sauron survived the conflict between the armies of Middle-earth and Morgoth. He's thought to be dead at this point in time. That's why there was this era of peace and some level of tranquility between nations. That's why there wasn't a war continuously going on from the end of the First Age through to the end of the Second Age. Because they thought that the main second guy of Morgoth was dead. They thought that all the armies of Morgoth were killed. Sauron fooled everyone to think that he was finally defeated along with Morgoth, and so everyone just kind of packed up and went home. But in this show, they decide they're going to make it seem like Galadriel's the only person who knows that Sauron is alive still. Oh, amazing! Stupid. But yeah, she's a terrible leader. I went through that opening monologue. It's a complete contradiction of the lore. I'm going to try to avoid talking about the lore as much as I can, because the lore has essentially been reduced to MCU cameos and Easter eggs. It's pretty ridiculous and stupid. But we cut to this moment where Galadriel and her team of elves are climbing up this ice wall. And while the rest of her team is climbing together, she's just using one knife to climb ahead, and amazingly, she's using one knife, and everyone else has to use full armor and full gear. But oh no, she's so perfect and incredible that she can just use one knife, and she can excel faster than the rest of them. But she's terrible at being a leader, because the reason why it is that you climb in groups is because of the fact that in case someone gets stuck or needs help, you as a group can help that person. The whole reason why it is that you move in a team, in a unit, is so that you are stronger as a unit. But this show wants to make Galadriel seem so amazing that she just climbs ahead of all of her men, and then when there's a scene where she's walking through this stormy wind on top of an icy mountain, she's walking forward, one of her guys falls behind, and someone says, "Hey, Galadriel, we need to stop." And she goes, "No, we keep moving." And then one of the guys just says, "Hey, you know what? Screw you, I'm breaking off. I'm helping the guy who just fell behind, you dumb bint." Which is how you should treat a leader that's that terrible. Because she actively lets people go behind. She actively lets people fall behind. She is actively willing to leave people in the path, like leave people behind, if it means that she can get her revenge sooner. She is a horrible, self-centered prick of a woman. She's a cow, as from Hill vs. Babyface, and Shad M. Brooks from Shadiversity and Night's Watch mention her as. And we get this scene where the second in command of the Elven force that Galadriel leads and Galadriel herself are talking to each other. The second in command says, "Look, we've come so far, we found nothing. Why don't we just pack here for the night and then go back to the town and just go home after we're done?" So we climbed up all the way up here just to say, why don't we just stay the night and then go back down? You know, that seems wonderful. No, that's incredibly stupid. You should obviously try to finish the task that you have before you. But let me ask you a question. What exactly are they going to set up camp with? Because they don't have any gear or anything to tent up with. They don't have anywhere to put up something so that they can sleep. They're just by themselves. They have their weapons, and that's it. They don't have any gear to set up camp. Nothing. They show nothing to suggest that they can set up a camp there. No wood, no fire, but somehow they start fires later on in this show, despite the fact that they don't actually have any material to do that. That's ridiculous, if you ask me. And like I said, Galadriel is a bit of a bint and whatnot, a bit of a cow. It's just, yeah, it's pretty terrible. It's a pretty terrible series of events. Now I'm flipping to my second page of notes here. Yes, 2 pages, and I've just barely gotten through the first, 5 minutes of the show or something like that. I say again, Galadriel is a terrible leader. She would deliberately leave her men behind, weakening her ranks and harming her cause, because of the fact that she's willing to leave behind people in a snowstorm if they don't catch up with her pace. Even though she's not supposed to be on the same level as the average elven warrior, because she's just about as talented as the average lore master in the elven people. But whatever. And how convenient is it? There's a scene after the guy falls behind and Galadriel's basically forced to stop by her men not following her orders, as they shouldn't, because frankly she's a terrible leader. They're like, where are we to go? And then all of a sudden there's lightning. There's lightning in a snowstorm, which I've never heard of that before. Maybe that's the thing, but I've never heard of that before. There's a lightning in a snowstorm, and conveniently that lightning in a snowstorm on the top of a mountain just shows them, oh yeah, we're in the right place. Look at that. There's an evil castle right behind us that we didn't see 2 seconds ago. Thank you, convenient flash of lightning, so that we can actually see where we're going. Now, I want you to do something. If you actually go in and watch this show, which I don't suggest, if you actually go in and watch this show, you will find out something very, very interesting. If you count the elves as they walk into the castle, there's about 7 elves. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm only bringing that up because there's a very important thing I want to talk to you about in just a few moments, okay? But there's 7 elves. And Galadriel, they walk through the castle. Galadriel punches open an ice wall, which is ridiculous because do you know how strong you'd have to be to punch through a solid wall of ice? It's stupid. Oh, there's also the stupid line of oh my gosh, the fire doesn't seem hot because this is where evil doesn't tread. Evil treads so harshly here that fire doesn't... Our torches don't have heat. Basically, because there's evil in the area, the torches don't have heat. Which is stupid, because later on in the scene, Galadriel pours water on a stone that has the marking of Sauron, the mark of Sauron, because they couldn't use the Eye of Sauron, because that's copyrighted by Warner Bros. So that she pours water on the mark of Sauron, and it steams up as if it's boiling. What in the heck, dude? I thought there was no heat. Why does it steam up? Why does steam pop up out of nowhere? When did that happen? It's retarded. And let's just be clear here. Sauron is the guy who forged the One Ring in the fires of Mount Doom. That's a pretty fiery place, if you ask me. No, the evil tools that Sauron used didn't seem to be warm or catch heat, because they were forged in the most vile heat that there was, the fires of Mount Doom. Therefore, it couldn't be affected by any other fire apart from that of the fires of Mount Doom. The tools that Sauron used didn't catch heat, but the actual method of Sauron's using his magic was, to some extent, heat related. So this whole line of there's so much evil here that heat fears to tread is incredibly stupid and doesn't make any sense within the context of the Lord of the Rings universe. The dialogue in this show, this is another one of those pet peeves of mine. A lot of people might not care for this pet peeve, but the dialogue in this show is extremely repetitive. It just says the same thing over and over again. It talks about, oh, they must have been looking for magic secrets, some sort of dark old magic secret, and that's just ridiculous. They repeat the same thing twice. Now, I've written a book. I'm currently getting it edited, and I know that I've done that. I know that I've done that, but that's because I never actually really fully invested myself in learning how to construct a story. I get caught up in the moment of writing, and that's why I have someone who's editing the book so they can catch all my mistakes, because they're the smart one, I'm the creative one. That's the whole process there. These people didn't have any editors, as is evident by the fact that this show has so many repetitive lines that just go on and on and on. And how does the mark, I already said this before, like, how does the mark of Sauron give off heat? Just answer me that, please, writers of this show. I'm trying to find out why it is that the mark of Sauron causes water to steam up when it doesn't allow for fire to have heat. It's stupid. And hold on, if the mark of Sauron was left on a trail, then how has it's such a stupid idea. The mark of Sauron is apparently her indication that he left it, that Sauron himself left his mark there for the orcs to follow him back to wherever it is that Sauron is hiding. Yet, she also says that this is the first time they have ever found the mark of Sauron anywhere that they've looked. So let me ask you this. How is she so freaking confident that that simple mark on a cave where a bunch of dead orcs are is somehow part of a trail? If that's the first time that she's seen it, which they do specify it as her being, that's the first time she's seen it apart from her brother. She herself says, I haven't seen this mark on anything since my brother, since I saw it on my brother. So she's been searching for Sauron this whole time and hasn't found anything except for this one time when she finds an abandoned station where dead orcs are all over the place on top of a mountain, and she thinks, this must be a trail that he left for the orcs. I know this because the writers say so, despite the fact that I've never seen this since my brother until now. No. You don't jump to that conclusion without having some level of a firm basis to back it up, and she doesn't have that. It's just a complete and total stretch of the imagination that no one actually thinks of. And the acting is just egregious. The acting is just atrocious. Every single line of dialogue that Galadriel speaks in this show she can't change her facial expression. I think it physically hurts her to change her facial expression, because while she's giving this impassioned speech about how she wants to return home just as much as anyone else, if not more, she doesn't change her facial expression. She literally stays as stone-faced as you could possibly imagine. If you drew a picture of Galadriel from this show and then just move the mouth up and down digitally, that's pretty much the extent of the range of acting that Morfydd Clark is capable of in this god-awful show. And another one of those things that annoys me, this isn't necessarily something that's contradictory to the story or is bad writing, it's just bad direction and bad acting. Stop holding the daggum torches so close to your face. Stop holding them directly in front of your eye line. Doing that is a great way to make yourself go blind. Because if you're holding a source of light in an extremely dark environment directly in front of your eyes and directly in front of your face, you're burning your retinas. It's a great way to permanently scar yourself. That's why it is that you shouldn't be watching something in the middle of the dark with really bright lights on in the middle of the night without a blue light filter at least. You should turn the dimness down or something like that. It's a pet peeve, I know. But it's one that I think is important because it's... If anyone ever thought that they could just hold the light in front of their face, they do themselves a great disservice. And Galadriel just watches her company get utterly destroyed by a cave troll or a snow troll for a good portion of this scene. I'm not even joking. She runs out as she hears people screaming and shouting, and for about a minute and a half, she just watches as her men get completely slaughtered, even though apparently none of them die. There's a case for at least 2 of them to have died because of the fact that they were freaking crushed by a boulder. Okay, so remember what I said? Remember what I said about the seven elves walking into this place? And it's like, oh yeah, 7 elves go in? Great. Amazing. Wonderful. Incredible. Awesome. 7 elves. Count the 7 elves. They're in the opening of the evil castle. There's 7 elves, and 2 of them at least get crushed by a boulder of ice tossed at full strength by a snow troll. 7 elves go in, 2 potentially die. Yet at the end of the troll fight scene, there's 9 elves. Meaning that somehow, not only is the troll so bad at its job at killing things, that it can't manage to kill 1, but it actually manages to multiply the elves it's trying to kill by 2! It allows 2 more elves to somehow spawn into existence when it didn't exist before. What the heck? The writers of the show can't do basic counting. And Galadriel just beats the troll so easily. It's retarded. She's not that good at fighting, nor is she on par physically with the warrior elves. Tolkien never said she was. That's not how that works. And the Matrix idea, oh my gosh, she's so incredible. Someone tosses her with their sword, and then she's just able to nick the troll a couple of times and take it out. The scene in The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when the Fellowship is actually fighting the troll and attacking the troll and they're fighting against these hordes of orcs, that's a much better interpretation of how that would go, because it's a bunch of people working together to stop the troll from doing something, to stop the troll from killing them all. But no, they wanted to make Galadriel do it better because she's the bestest ever as the female elf. Oh my gosh. And the elves laying down their arms is incredibly retarded, because I know they had to have picked them up on the way back, but if they really did just leave them there, that would be incredibly stupid, because you need it for self-defense against any random creatures that could attack you on your journey home, or if you need to cut something, or forage for something, or set up a tent, you could stab those things in the ground in the very least and hang a cloth across it. So the elves laying down their arms is so stupid, but the writers wanted to get some stupid scene about the elves doing something apart from Galadriel's orders. It's retarded. And Galadriel's supposed to be the embodiment of beauty and grace, so them turning her into an insufferable cow bent on war is just disgraceful. Another problem with this show is that no one in Middle-earth is supposed to even know that Sauron is still alive. I already mentioned that before. He tricked everyone into believing that he died along with Morgoth until he waged war on Middle-earth and tried to enslave it at the end of the Second Age, when he tried to get the leaders of every single sect, the elves, the dwarves, and the men, to create rings of power where he could actually control the world, essentially, and dominate life through the use of the One Ring. And the accents of the Harfoots, we cut to the Harfoots at this point. After the terrible Galadriel scene, after the awful troll fight, we cut to the Harfoots. I don't want to go into the talking about the Harfoots because this video is already getting inexorbitantly long. Just know the Harfoots are hobbits, and they shouldn't exist in the Second Age. They're also some of the most vile pricks that you will see on this show as we go forward into the series. But their accents are incredibly inconsistent, and the acting is awful. Awful. Just absolutely awful. And Marigold Brandyfoot, which is, I think, one of the characters, I don't remember which one of the Harfoots that is. I think it's the mother of Nori Brandyfoot. Marigold Brandyfoot is the mother of Nori Brandyfoot. Marigold Brandyfoot says, "Nobody walks alone or gets left behind," but anyone who watched this show beyond the first episode, I think in the 3rd episode, knows that's not true, because they do leave people behind. They deliberately let people fall behind and don't go after them to stop them from falling behind. And everything about the ceremony in the elves, the Linden, I believe is what they call it in this show, it looks incredibly cheap. I don't know. That's just a personal preference. I'm not sure if you guys felt the same way. Let me know in the comment section below.
I thought that the entire ceremony scene looked cheap. I thought they just took a couple of very, very cheap leafy crowns that they found at a Dollar General or something and spray painted them gold and then called it a day. It looked super cheap. The armor looked terrible too. Like, it just looked bad. And I'm only halfway through the first episode, and I am begging that Morphet Clark learns how to move her mouth when she talks, because every single time she speaks, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Every single time she speaks, she doesn't open her mouth. She literally talks like this. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. It's annoying. There's a line in this scene after the ceremony. Elrond talks to Galadriel, and he's basically just telling her, look, it's only natural that you might feel conflicted about the fact that this war might not be over because of all the stuff that you've gone through. And then she just goes, conflicted. Not much to say. I mean, that one line pretty much sums up everything wrong with Galadriel in this show. Her having this angst and this anger towards things. Her being filled with piss and vinegar, as the showrunner said. That's not Galadriel. That's not how that works. And then she says, you've not seen what I have seen. She says it twice. She doesn't give any evidence to prove herself correct. She doesn't show anything that she could say. Like, there's this mark of Sauron. We fought this troll. That's all incredibly flat. That's not physical evidence that Sauron exists. If you actually saw him and you had others who could attest to seeing him, then maybe that'd be something. But you don't. You don't have that. You have no evidence. So what do you mean you have not seen what I have seen? He's seen pretty much exactly the same that you've seen, but you've just held on to it longer. It's terrible. And yeah. Then we cut to the Black Elf. The Black Elf. Oh, I'm going to call him Don Lemonos. Because they put him in this show exclusively because they wanted their commentary on an oppression of POCs. That's pretty much exclusively the reason why. Knife ears. Yeah, that's the new racial slur that this show comes up with. Some drunken guy in the bar who's supposed to be a Trump supporter is going to be this guy who offends the black elf by going, knife ears, let it go, knife ears. And I honestly think that having Don Lemonos be a normal white elf would make the scene we just saw less impactful. It's terrible regardless, because the color doesn't matter in the writing, in the scene. It's the writing that matters. The writing is abhorrent. The writing of the scene is so awful. You know, if there was actually a scene where we got to see some level of oppression of actual elven people based off of the men of the world, then great, that works. But it doesn't work if you just paint a person's skin a different color from the traditional color that elves have, and then call someone knife ears and assume that that's supposed to somehow represent that this black elf faces all this oppression comparatively to the other elves. That's not how it works. And the secret relationship between Don Lemonos and White Girl Number 5, it's not so secret if we're being totally honest. Because anyone who watches this show, or anyone who knows anything about body language, or anything about people who are trying to keep relationships secret, knows when someone's bullcrapping them. They can tell. It's pretty easy. And why do so many elves have fresh fades from the local barbershop in this show? The elves are supposed to be tall, thin, and fair-skinned with long, flowing hair. Usually a lighter color of hair, not a darker color of hair, although there are elves that have darker colored hair. But they're supposed to be tall, thin, white-skinned, and fair-skinned, and long, flowing hair. But they don't do that, and I just want to know why it is that they have so many elves in this show having short haircuts. It looks stupid. And there's a line in this. I'm gonna break this down for you. I'm gonna talk about this for a second. You've kept watch over them not because of what their ancestors once did, but because of who they still are. That seems to me like a very familiar sentiment about awful ideology that comes out of the leftist ideologies about people of a certain political party. Now, I'm not saying that they deliberately tried to make it seem like the certain people were... Actually, no, I am saying that. They definitely deliberately tried to make some people seem more like Trump supporters and Republicans than others, because that was their idea. They wanted to make it seem like the Black Elf is just this horribly oppressed individual. And it's incredibly stupid. It really is. And that scene just does a terrible job at creating conflict for these characters. It's just terrible. I'm sorry, this show gives me such a brain fart because I have to deal with watching it, and it's incredibly stupid. We cut forward to a scene where the Black Elf goes and visits White Girl number 5, and they have a conversation about him loving her or something like that, and then he milks a cow because someone brings the cow to this woman who's supposedly the veterinarian of the place, and when he milks this cow, black milk comes out of it, so that automatically makes him want to go over to the next town, and the woman just decides she's going to go with him, like, doesn't announce to her kid that she's going to go with him, doesn't leave him any provisions, doesn't leave him any luggage or instructions. She just up and goes. Like, that's terrible parenthood. White Girl number 5 is an awful mother. And since when does the Mark of Sauron act like an all-seeing eye? That happens in this show as well. But, you know, they just wanted to kind of make a correlation between this and the actual good stuff. There's terrible logic from the discount Gil-galad here. If the evil is alive, it has to be stamped out. Like, if it isn't, then Galadriel would inevitably be proven wrong, thus showing the evil is truly gone. Sending her away doesn't really do anything except save the lives of the elves she would lead into battle because she's a terrible leader. Like, the Gil-galad deliberately sends Galadriel away because he's like, in trying to stamp out the evil that she seeks, she may have actually caused it to stay alive, which is just incredibly stupid. They also say the same wind that may put out a fire also might feed the flame or something like that. It's terrible logic. It really is terrible logic. Because when you think about it, again, if the evil existed, searching for it and trying to put it to death would be the smart thing to do. If the evil didn't exist, then letting Galadriel just prove herself wrong would be the appropriate thought process here. But, you know, the writers are too stupid to realize that. So, it's just horrendously bad. And the forced romance between Don Lemnos and White Girl number 5 is just unbearable to a terribly annoying degree. Every second that they pop up on screen, I just want to turn the show off. Now, I also want to say this. As they're walking towards the other town, they stop on the opposite end of a hill to have a conversation about romance. And then then all of a sudden they just randomly start to hear fire coming from the other side of the hill. And my question is, why is it that they only heard the fire after they had their romantic conversation? Why is that the case? And why didn't they see the large black smoke that came out of the village that was being burned down until after they went over the hill? It's smoke. It rises. It's going to continue to rise. You're going to see the black smoke coming from wherever you are. I can see black smoke for miles when there's a fire where I live. It's not that hard to see the black smoke. Yet these writers are so stupid that they try to make it seem like a shocking surprise. And the writers are so dumb they actually think their stupid rock versus boat analogy is good enough to become the central plot point of this show's first episode, because it appears as though Galadriel isn't smart enough to understand the difference between up and down, because she jumps right into the ocean as she's on her way to Valinor. It's like she's learning nothing since she was a childish, arrogant little girl. She deliberately jumps into the ocean rather than go into the everlasting, the undying lands. It's so stupid. They try to make that seem like this important piece of dialogue that's just incredible and amazing. Oh my gosh, wow, what wisdom that came from Galadriel's older brother. But it's so stupid. It really is. It's a terrible, terrible analogy for everything in life. And another thing, why is it that she's so stupid that she just decides to jump into the ocean when she is several hundred miles offshore? She just decides, I'm going to swim back to shore. You know, it's so stupid. It's ridiculous. She's at least 200 miles away from the mainland. So when she jumps into the boat, she's actively choosing to try and swim more than 200 miles back to where she just came from. Anyone who does that is mentally ill and should be left to die, honestly, because they're just incredibly retarded. And there's a reason. They try to justify it with something in the second episode that I'll get to in reviewing the second episode once I get to that. But goodness gracious, as of right now, she should just drown because she gets too tired from moving her arms. The actual line of dialogue that her brother actually talked about when he whispered into her ear back when he first gave her the stone versus boat analogy was this: sometimes we cannot know until we've touched the darkness. Which is incredibly stupid, because if you stay focused on the light, then you don't have to worry about touching the darkness. You can just stay focused on the light. Knowing what the light is allows you to understand what the darkness is. And by knowing the light, you stay on the path of the light and you avoid the path of the dark. It's that simple. It's not difficult to understand. But the writers honestly probably think that you have to engage in acting evil or engage in jumping into the abyss to understand the light. Like, it's so stupid. And the minimal amount of effort that the elves show in trying to get Galadriel to stay on the boat is insulting. I think I think secretly they just wanted her to let her go on purpose because of how much of an insufferable cow she is. I genuinely think that they were like, oh no, Galadriel, come back, reach out from my hand. I could step like half an inch towards you and grab your hand, but oh no, come to me. Oh, she jumped off. Okay, everyone, let's get into Valinor before she comes back. Let's go. Because she's just such an insufferable cow. And wouldn't you know, Galadriel dies because she stranded herself in the sea 100 miles offshore with no raft, provisions of any kind, or a way of signaling for someone to come rescue her. She's completely stranded in the ocean, and some creature comes and kills her. Happy ending. What a wonderful show. Oh wait, that's not how this ends, does it? And we get the last scene where the wizard finally gets introduced, and the show is definitely not Gandalf, guys. It's definitely not Gandalf. But let me just say this one more thing before I end this entire review. If a wizard is capable of crashing down into the ground at such intense speeds from such an intense height, literally a comet comes crashing down onto the face of Middle-earth like that of a comet, how is it that anything could hurt a wizard? It's incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid. Anyways, I hope you guys were able to sort out what it is I'm trying to say in my ramblings, because I, for myself, have completely lost all touch with reality as I've done this review. This show is mind-bogglingly stupid. And if you had a hard time following this review, as I laid it out step by step what happened in the show, then you yourself understand that this show is so bad that even a detailed description of it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Now, I will be bringing more reviews towards you. If there's any way that I can improve, please let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification icon so you won't miss a video. Share this out there with your friends, and make sure to follow me over on Patreon and Rumble. I leave links to those in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week. Now, I normally would sign off after this, but I just want to thank you guys if you watched through this entire thing. This has been a long video, and I really hope that you guys found this engaging and fun. If not, I'll try to shorten it up, but as of right now, that's the review. I really do sincerely, though, hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week.